Into questions 7 and 8. Call first on the Honourable Member for Douglas East to move her question. Ms Faragher.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister for Infrastructure, when his department plans to reinstate the tramway from the War Memorial to the sea terminal? When this plan was made, what assessment has been undertaken of the impact of this plan on tourism, and if you will make a statement? Thank you.
I call on the Honourable Member for Garff, Mrs Caine.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister for Infrastructure where the horse tram track will terminate for the 2022 season and in subsequent years.
Call on the Minister for Infrastructure to reply.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The project for the refurbishment of the promenade included renewing the horse tram infrastructure for the full length of the promenade. In the last administration, the work south of Broadway was removed from the current contract due to budget pressures. The funding of £1.2 million currently allocated in the Pink Book is not enough to complete the horse trams to the sea terminal. It is enough, though, I'm told, to extend the horse tramway from Broadway through to the War Memorial, but this should be balanced against the disruption caused by the promenade works. As far as I'm aware, there has been no study on the impact of tourism. However, it is recognised that there is a number of tour operators and cruise ships who promote the heritage of the Isle of Man, provided by both the railways and the Manx National Heritage. These tours include both of are included in both their itineraries. The horse tramway is expected to operate between Derby Castle and Broadway in 2022, basically so where we see where it finishes at the moment, subject to its completion. As per my earlier answer, I'm not in a position to confirm when the section to the War Memorial will be completed. Similarly, the reinstatement of the sea terminal will be subject to an application for funding through Tynwald budget process, Mr Speaker.
First supplementary in the hands of Ms Faragher.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would the Minister agree that the original scheme for the promenade always included the complete reinstatement of the horse tram track, and this was approved by Tynwald Court? Any increase in the original cost of the scheme had nothing to do with the horse trams, actually. To now state that extra money is needed to complete the horse trams is slightly misleading. Would the Minister agree that elected representatives and the people of the island were always under the impression that the tram track would be completed, and this now should be done in a timely manner? Thank you.
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I believe, well, I know it was in the original plans was to complete it through to the sea terminal. I believe that was de-scoped from the project some months ago, quite a few months ago, if you like, due to budgetary constraints, and that will now, as I said, will be subject to me or somebody else coming back to Tynwald to ask for more to complete that. But yes, originally it was the initial plan was to complete it right the way through to the sea terminal. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you. Supplementary question, Ms Caine.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I ask the Minister if he's aware what the additional funding will be required just to complete the horse trams? Does he agree that the Tramworks reinstatement in the promenade received £750,000 from the Heritage Railways operational budget previously, and yet we see in the latest report that there are significant corrections that need to be made, rectifications to the works already done, such as the replacement of points at the Broadway end, and also a small groove needs to be cut alongside the whole length of the rail, Central and Queen's Promenade, so the whole length of the rail already done. Sealant applied to help reduce tram noise for passengers, plus the current coloured concrete cracking section in the Lock Promenade will also need a similar groove cut out. It just seems like there's been a series of repeated sabotage against the horse trams that stems from some lack of knowledge or advisors or quantity surveyors or construction with the contractors in completing the horse trams. Does his department want to complete the horse trams, or are they trying to sabotage them so that they never get reinstated?
Minister to reply.
Mr Speaker, I think having had conversations with the Honourable Member in other places, and also when I stand up here to answer questions, she will understand my frustration as the Minister from when I took over this department as to what's gone on the promenade over the last 3 years. The replacement of the points, it's not the replacement of the points, it's a new set of points. They are now due in the beginning of March, but they've gone back another 2 weeks, which we found out at the end of last week. They shouldn't curtail the whole project at all, but it will put the horse trams back by another couple of weeks. The The March works, I've got March works down here, I can't remember what the member's question was, but it absolutely was, oh sorry, yes, that's right, the member asked about the amount of money required to finish the job. I believe, as I said, there's £1.2 million in the budget to take it through to the War Memorial. It is then somewhere in the region of about £1.5 million to take it from the War Memorial up to the sea terminal, and that was the amount that was de-scoped and taken out of the budget, if you like, to be used on the scheme prior to, I'm led to believe, where we are now. So, all in all, we've got 1.2. We will need probably about another £1.5 million to take it to the sea terminal. I am not prepared to bring that forward at the moment over the next year or maybe 2 years, and I know the members are frustrated about this, as are a lot of other people. But as I've said before, given the amount of work that's gone on the prom and the disruption we've had for the last 3 years, I think we need time to settle down. And when we go back to do that, probably there may well be other works, I don't know at the moment, but there may well be other works that need doing at the same time to put things right. But certainly I think the prom needs a break. People need a break and to let the prom settle down and work properly. And then at some stage, or somebody will have to come back to Tynwald for that money to finish the scheme. But I do feel the honourable member's frustration for the scheme and other people's.
Supplementary question, Mr. Collister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An amendment and a debate took place on the 17th of January 2017 in the other place, and that was to put twin tracks from Summerhill down to Broadway and a single track between the War Memorial and the sea terminal. The current minister voted against that amendment. Can I ask the minister, therefore, is he committed to make sure that the tracks are laid as soon as it is feasibly possible in the future?
Question. Minister's reply.
I would like to see those tracks finished from one end to the other. The reason I voted against it in the very first place was because I felt it should have been a single track from one end to the other down the road, down the seaward side. And that's why I was the only one that voted against it in another place. But I would absolutely, at some stage, at the right time, like to see those tracks finished to the far end.
Supplementary question, Mr. Morehouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the decision of Tynwald, who made the decision to de-scope, with what authority and when, and given it was a Tynwald decision, is there any requirement on the DOI to complete the work as Tynwald required? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister's reply.
I believe that not if the answer is the answer, Mr. Speaker, if it was a Tynwald decision to de-scope and allow that works to happen, but that's what I'm told at the moment. I will check on that.
Supplementary question, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister talked about budget constraints stopping this. Would the Minister like to confirm it's actually budget overspends? Secondly, the impression's been built up that the original plan was for the sea terminal to go to, sorry, for the horse trams to go to the sea terminal. That's not the case. DOI's plan was always for it to go to Broadway or perhaps the War Memorial. Can the Minister confirm that? I'm talking about 2013-14. And thirdly, can the Minister advise whether the department has already got a contingency plan for what it's going to do with the grass verge next to the very narrow pavement alongside the gardens, or has the DOI actually put in a bid to Treasury for completion of this work to the sea terminal?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Starting with the last one first, there's been no further bids to Treasury at this time for any money to finish this off. And the grass verges there, I'm told, will be sowed with Manx wild flowers and looked after, hopefully. We will make sure, I will make sure that they are looked after. If that's what we've had to do, we will make sure that they're looked after and keep the prom tidy, having spent the best part of £25–30 million on this by the time we finish. Absolutely, with the first point, it is an overspend. I'm happy to agree with that. It's not any other thing. It was an overspend, and so it was the project was de-scoped. And the original plan was for the trams to go to the sea terminal. From the very first discussions I certainly had in the department many years ago, it was to go to the sea terminal, not to the War Memorial at all. It was to go from one end to the other.
Question, Mrs. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First point on the rail points that are awaited to be fitted. I said replacement points. Can the Minister confirm my understanding that previous points were fitted but were actually deemed not suitable or safe by the railway inspector? So yet again, incompetence in terms of reinstating the tramway. But also, back to my original question, can he confirm the start date for horse tram services, Also, what facilities are going to be provided for passengers in the middle of Broadway? And for subsequent years, where is it intended to, when is it intended to run the horse trams? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The rail points were changed following the rail regulators' inspection, and with regards to signalling and that, they decided what was planned originally. I don't think it had been made, but I'll stand to be corrected on that. I don't think it had been made, but certainly the design of them was changed very late in the day. As regarding the start date for the trams, I have no idea at this time. As I said, things have been put back 2 weeks, and I've said in previous questions or answering previous questions, there's some training of the horses to be done and all sorts of things, but you know, we are now talking about end of June, probably beginning of July, and there will be a complete inspection with regards to people getting off and alighting and getting them back onto the trams in the Broadway area to make sure it's safe, and if the inspector's not happy, it will not happen.
Supplementary question, Mr Morehouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the number of children, elderly and partially sighted individuals wanting to access and leave the tram at the Broadway terminus, could the Minister please provide some reassurance about the safety issues related to the industrial block surfaces, which look incredibly hazardous between the road and the railway track? Thank you.
Minister to reply.
That won't be the alighting point, so there won't be. Those are put there to stop people standing on them. Basically, you know, if you do try it, they're very uncomfortable. But that is not meant to be the alighting place. It's further along.